Sorry if I seem a bit frazzled, but I went through sort of a traumatic event like 30 minutes ago. And so I'm feeling a bit frazzled. Let me tell you what happened. So 30 minutes ago or so, give or take, I was making myself a smoothie, a raspberry banana vanilla smoothie to be exact. Actually, I'll just give you the recipe: frozen raspberries, frozen bananas, vanilla yogurt, Greek yogurt to be exact, vanilla extract, vanilla protein powder, plant-based protein powder. It doesn't really make sense because there's yogurt in it as well. It's illogical. Blend it up. Enjoy. Raspberry banana vanilla smoothie. Yum. I was making that and I noticed that my left eye was a bit itchy. And I was kind of rubbing it a little bit. And then I kind of felt like something was in there. Like I felt like a hair was in there or something, which actually made sense because earlier this afternoon, I gave my bangs a trim. They were getting a bit too long. And so I cut them myself, which is never a good idea, but actually they turned out kind of good. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm really good at cutting my bangs, which was exciting. But there was definitely some hair residue on my face. I also have cats and their hair gets in my eyes all the time. Anyway, I felt sort of a hair in my eye and it was really bothering me. And I was like rubbing it, making the smoothie, rubbing it. And then I was like, okay, I need to put some eye drops in this eye. Like it is really starting to bother me. And this all came on like intensely in like 30 seconds. And so I walked over, got some eye drops, put them in, and I was like, geez, my eye is like itching me really bad, but also like I really feel like something's in there. Like, it felt like my eye had like mucus in it. Like I felt like there was a bunch of like floaties floating around in my eye. I was like, geez, my eye is acting up intensely all of a sudden. And so I decided to look in a mirror. Okay. So I walk up to the mirror and my left eye is like swollen shut, beet red, super red. And I was like, oh, okay. So I look a little bit closer and I'm like, geez, like I've never seen my eye this bloodshot before. And then I decided to look for the hair. I was like, there must be a hair in there, either a cat hair or whatever. And so I pull my eye down to kind of look around and I see a little hair. And so I'm like trying to get out the hair. But then I look closer at the left side of my left eye. So like, the left side of the eye. And I notice what looks like a blister on my eye. A big like sac almost filled with fluid. And I was like, okay, now what's that? And I touch it a little bit, like kind of poke it a little bit. And it's like a fluid filled sac. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And I have severe health anxiety. So seeing this to me, I was like, oh, okay, something's really, really wrong. I call my mom, she doesn't answer. I call my dad, he's like, everything's totally fine, I bet. I'm like, no, something's wrong with this, something wrong. Anyway, my mom calls me back. I'm like, can you please, we have a doctor that she's on text with because I have such bad health anxiety. And so she texts a picture to my doctor. And while we're waiting, she's like, everything's going to be fine. This is like not a big deal. Anyway, we end up Googling it. It's totally normal. It's from allergies or like something being in my eye, like a hair or something. I have allergies and I had a hair in my eye. So I was like, okay, we're good. It's just that the doctor responds. He confirms that hypothesis that I'm always against Googling something, but I was like, we need to Google this because it's like really freaking me out. And I don't know when the doctor's going to respond. Anyway, totally fine. It's just like the body's response to a foreign object in the eye or, foreign particles that would trigger allergies or whatever. And so I'm super relieved. Then all of a sudden I get one of the most severe allergy attacks I've ever had in my life. Coincidentally, I don't know. I start sneezing and sneezing and sneezing. I probably sneezed 100 times over the course of like 20 minutes. Out of nowhere, I just started sneezing. And so I took my allergy pill early. I snorted some Flonase. I did like, oh my God. And now we're here. Anyway, this is not what the episode's about today. We're talking about fashion today, but I had to tell you about what just happened to me because number one, I sound congested and now you know why. But number two, because I had to tell somebody. I've never experienced like a fluid-filled sac on my eye. It was so jarring to see. But it didn't hurt or anything. So I was like, it can't be that bad. Anyway, enough of that. Everything's totally fine. I'm grateful that everything's fine. And let's move on. Let's move on to the real topic of conversation today, which is red carpet fashion. Today, we're going to be discussing red carpet fashion because this week is the Met Gala. And the Met Gala is arguably the most significant red carpet of the year, where the most cutting edge fashion is put on the carpet. And I absolutely love the art of red carpet outfits, black tie outfits, gowns, suits. Like, I adore the art of this genre of fashion. And it's interesting because I've never been a particularly formal person. Like, I have always sort of felt uncomfortable getting dressed up. It always has felt like not genuine to me. I don't know. I've always felt like uncomfortable in a gown up until I would say more recently. Now I'm like, no, this is so fun. But growing up, it was not, I don't know, like I always felt uncomfortable. I didn't feel like myself. I felt very self-conscious, in a gown or in a dress. I felt uncomfortable, super dressed up. So it's fascinating to me on a personal level how much I appreciate it now as an adult. Because growing up, it was like, I don't know, it was kind of a sore spot for me. Like, I really didn't like getting dressed up. But now I love it and appreciate it. And the art of it is just delightful. Anyway, so, anytime there's like a red carpet event, I'm like refreshing Vogue, excited to see what everybody wore to the event. I'm like critiquing everybody's outfits in my head. I'm like sending photos to my friends who are also into fashion. I'm like, oh my God, what do you think of this one? Oh my God, what do you think of this? Like, it's almost like a sport for me. But I'm also fortunate that I sort of get to play in this sport a few times a year myself, because I attend a few red carpet events a year and it's a delight. I get to participate in the art of it. But today, in honor of the Met Gala being this week, I thought we would do a trendy or timeless red carpet edition. Trendy or Timeless is a series here on Anything Goes where we discuss fashion and whether it's trendy or timeless, in my opinion, in my very unprofessional opinion. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, discussing red carpet fashion and whether it's trendy or timeless. So without further ado, let's begin. And let's start with corseted gowns, okay? I actually just sort of recently wore a corseted gown like 2 months ago. Corsets go way back. Do I know how far back they go? Absolutely not. And I'm not going to Google it, but they go way back. And I do think that they have somewhat of a controversial history when it comes to, say, beauty standards. The corset is obviously a garment used to sort of cinch the waist, which of course perpetuates the beauty standard of having a small waist, which is not necessarily ideal. And I think the corset, and even like the concept of the corset, does seem to have a bit of baggage with it in a way that, like the corset has a complicated history, right? And I think the topic of the corset can be somewhat polarizing because some people are like, it's a symbol of, toxic beauty standards, whatever. Other people are like, but it's a beautiful garment. I'm aware of the toxic past of the corset, but I do think it is a beautiful garment. Like, it looks beautiful. The way that a corset structures the midsection of the body, and it doesn't even need to be cinched super tight. Like, I'm not saying we need to be cinching it so tight that it's like, the person wearing it can't breathe. It doesn't even need to be that tight. I just think the structure that's created from the boning of a corset is really beautiful. And I think it would be a shame to not perhaps reinvent the concept of the corset in a modern way because it had, maybe a negative past. Like, I'm all for the corset because I think it's beautiful and it's not mandatory. You know what I mean? Like, nobody has to wear a corset. It's not taboo not to wear a corset anymore. Now it's an option and we can choose to wear one if it looks good and it feels good and it's what we're excited about. To me, a corset is timeless. And I will say it's partially timeless because it goes back so far in history. But I also think it's timeless because when it comes to like black tie, red carpet, people want to wear things that are going to look really striking and beautiful and solid. And the thing about a corset is that it's so stiff and structured that it's like a weirdly reliable element in a formal gown because it doesn't move. When I'm wearing a corset to an event, which I've done many times, I don't worry about anything wrinkling or, because it's just this like stiff, solid element. You know what I mean? It's weirdly reliable and it looks really strong, because it doesn't move and because it's almost like the corset is the thing controlling the body, not the other way around. The body's not shaping the garment. And again, some people might think that that's sort of a toxic thing, but I think it can be sort of like nice and like even as the wearer of it, where it's like, this thing is just, it's on me. It's its own, I don't know, it feels like it has a life of its own, like a structure of its own. I think corsets are timeless. I think that they're beautiful. And I think why not try to create new memories of the corset in modern day that are maybe a bit more positive? Oh, and the last thing I'll say about a corset is that I have horrible posture and the corset makes me stand up straight. And that's really good. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to exaggerated shaped gowns. Super dramatic, huge shapes, very abnormal shapes. Okay, so like close your eyes and imagine, a gown, but the bottom is out super, super wide, like wide, 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 like probably a 40-pound skirt, right? And then on the top, waist up, there's like a huge bulbous, like, I don't even know, like frill coming out. And then there's like a sculptural shoulder pad and there's like sculptural shoulder pads and they're huge and they're coming out. Like imagine sort of a larger than life, exaggerated, large, 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 weird sort of gown. Like I'm not just talking about like a poofy skirt. I'm talking about like a ridiculously poofy skirt. I'm not talking about, padded shoulders. I'm talking about ridiculously large padded shoulders, like exaggerated, almost cartoon like features, which is something that I remember seeing as a young person and being like, that is so fucking stupid. Like, what is that? Why would anyone choose to wear that? It's just weird. I will say that I think volume in a gown, like, a dress with like a really floofy sort of bottom half, like that's obviously timeless. That's like, I don't know, there's like a few formats of gowns and that's one of them. As long as gowns have existed, that has existed. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really exaggerated, like dramatic, almost cartoon-like large details. I'm going to say that I really enjoy this. Like when I see this now, as a kid, I thought it was stupid. But now I'm like, fun. Like this is intriguing. This is interesting. This is dramatic and entertaining, which a lot of times, specifically with the red carpet, is kind of the whole point. You know what I mean? Like most of the time, people who walk a red carpet are entertainers. And so it makes sense that somebody walking a red carpet would show up in something really theatrical and interesting and conversation worthy because their job is to entertain. And just because they're on a red carpet doesn't mean that job ends. They should still be entertaining the public, even if it's a bit weird. I don't know. I think that that's cool and I like it. However, I think it's rarely timeless. It's very hard to do this right in a way where it feels chic and cool and like a genuine form of self-expression for the person wearing it. It often reads a bit ridiculous, a bit ingenuine, and almost kind of like maybe like a look at me sort of thing. Like, look at me, I'm wearing this weird thing. And it like doesn't make sense for the person and it just kind of reads empty. Or like the design of the gown itself maybe is like just kind of like dramatic and exaggerated for the sake of being dramatic and exaggerated. And it's not actually thoughtful design that's flattering or truly artistic, maybe. I don't know. You can never know what the designer was thinking when they made something. So I guess I shouldn't be assuming what they were thinking, but it reads like, oh, they were just making this dramatic and weird for the sake of being dramatic and weird. It reads that way. Maybe they truly, but you see what I'm saying? I think it's rarely timeless just because it is so hard to do right. And it does have a tendency to look goofy and ingenuine, but I do still enjoy it. Moving on to something sort of similar, but not quite. Sculptural elements. Okay, so I'm not talking about like bulbous shoulders or like, a really, really large, exaggerated skirt of the gown or whatever. I'm talking about like something where it's a dress and there's like a bunch of floating flowers around it. Like there's weird little plastic sticks that you can attach to a dress. And then you could attach like a flower or like even like a little bird or something at the end of it. And to the naked eye, it kind of looks like there's things floating around the gown. I'm talking about stuff like that. Or I'm talking about a good example would be Ariana Grande just wore a Wizard of Oz inspired dress where from the front, it just looks like a normal, red, very poofy sort of gown. But then from the back, there's like a red slipper built into the back of the dress. Sculptural. Okay. So I'm talking about sculptural elements. I think sculptural stuff can go corny. You know what I mean? Like almost kind of costume-esque, which I think when it comes to red carpet fashion and black tie and formal wear or whatever, it's like a lot of times the goal is to accomplish something somewhat chic and elegant, right? Which I don't necessarily think has any like one particular definition, but I do think that something that is too goofy, too silly, that's not going to be timeless. Like it might be sort of entertaining in the moment, but I think people are going to look back and be like, ooh, like that was kind of funny, but like not super chic. I don't know. Sculptural elements, when done right, can be so chic and so timeless. I personally think that the way that we take something like a classic gown and take it to the next level is by getting a little bit weird with it, adding like flowers sticking out, adding a bird on the shoulder, adding a slipper on the back of the dress, like adding these elements that are smart and subtle, but yet really powerful and interesting. I think sculptural elements can take things to the next level. I think for the most part, timeless. I'm going to say 80% timeless. Whereas really exaggerated shapes, big shoulders, big skirt, really big, bulbous, like whatever the fuck, you know what I'm talking about. That is like 25% timeless. Like it's timeless 25% of the time. And these two things are very similar, but yet they're different. Okay, let's move on to mini dress. Yeah, the mini dress. I'm talking about like mini dress, okay? I'm talking about, like a mini skirt length, short. I'm sorry. Everybody's going to be like, Emma, you're a Karen. You're so old fashioned. But I am going to say, I don't think it's timeless. Do I think it can be so cute? Yes. Yes, I do think it can be so cute. And sometimes I love a little mini dress. And sometimes that's what I want to wear on a carpet. Not really, though, actually. I've never worn a mini dress on the carpet. And to be honest, I don't think I will because, listen, I never want to say never because you never know. And like something might speak to me one day and it might just make sense. But to me, a mini dress is informal. And again, I know I sound old fashioned or like whatever, but it's informal. And to be honest, I'm all about reinventing, dress codes or reinventing like the norm for things. Like I'm all about it. I'm so open-minded. I'm excited. I'm there. Okay. But I just think there's something about a long gown, a full piece, right? That is just so elegant to me. And I think a mini dress can never reach that level of intrigue, of elegance. Like it'll never, I don't know. It always sort of feels like a party dress. It's very hard. I don't know that you can elevate a mini dress into something that feels formal. And that really is what red carpet events are. They're very formal. I think in general, for a red carpet event, I personally wouldn't want to go any shorter than like ankle. You know what I mean? Anything shorter than ankle for a gown specifically, I just don't know. Listen, I have worn some really weird experimental stuff on carpets before, like leather underwear. Anyway, we can talk about that later, maybe if it comes up. And that's sort of an exception. Although that red carpet event was much less formal. It was actually a party. I don't know. It was like a red carpet for a party. Anyway, whatever. I just think a longer dress is always going to look more chic than a mini dress. And I just don't think a mini dress is timeless. I think right now, when we see a little mini dress on the carpet, we're like, but I think in like a year, it'll be like, ugh. Do you know what I'm saying? It has a little bit of time left, but it's about to go out. And then it'll come back in like another 10, 20 years or whatever. But I don't know. Not timeless to me. Okay, next we have full rhinestone gown. This is like a really popular style of gown that I see a lot on red carpets. And I actually have worn a gown like this before. There's usually like two kinds of full rhinestone gowns. And when I say full rhinestone gown, I'm not talking about like a full red rhinestone gown. No, I'm talking about a full rhinestone, no like color. It's just like diamond. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's either a bunch of diamonds on like mesh, so you do see a bit of skin through, or it's just a gown that's completely covered from head to toe in crystals, okay? Or rhinestones or whatever. This is a very popular style of gown. I was just looking at a red carpet event that happened. I was just scrolling through and I saw probably 3 or 4, right? They are very popular. I've worn one before and it was beautiful. To be honest, I actually do think this is a timeless gown. In fact, I think it's one of the only times that rhinestones / crystals are timeless is in this style of gown where it's just like the whole thing is sparkly, you know, like the whole thing is covered in diamonds. Do I like this? I don't hate it. That's for sure. I don't hate it. It doesn't make me cringe, but I will say it's such a popular style of gown that every time I see it, I'm like, I've seen a lot of those recently, and I'm not excited by this, really. You know, it's not very exciting. It's very hard to reinvent that. I mean, there's different ways to reinvent it, right? Like sometimes you'll have a full rhinestone gown that's like literally fully covered in rhinestones and crystals, right? It's like there is not one speck of skin, right? You can't see any skin. And then there's others where, you know, it's on sort of a see-through sort of mesh. So like the rhinestones are more spread out, still in like some sort of organized pattern, but more spread out. You know, the silhouette can change. Maybe sometimes it's like a long sleeve gown, or maybe it's like a tank toppy looking gown. I don't know the name of the necklines. Sometimes it's like a tube toppy looking one. Like, sure, you know, there's ways to switch it up, but for the most part, it always kind of looks the same. And it's flattering for the most part, but I look at the people wearing those gowns and I'm like, I know how heavy that thing is. That thing is 1,000 pounds. So it's not comfortable, but none of this stuff is really. It's not supposed to be. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I do think it's timeless. I just am not super passionate about it personally, even though I have worn one before. Okay, next we have rhinestones in general, like any sort of colored crystal. Okay, so now this is its own category because I think these are two very different things happening. Okay, we have like classic neutral, you know, rhinestones / crystals, and then you have any sort of color with crystals, right? Like, so that would be, for example, a beautiful long blue gown that's has a bunch of, you know, crystals or rhinestones on it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't love it. And listen, you can look back, you can look up photos of me, you will find rhinestones, you will find crystals, you will find these things. I've worn these things. I don't love it. I don't love it. And I don't think it's timeless, to be honest. The rhinestone, the crystal in particular, especially when it's when it's a classic like crystal, see-through, clear, fine. It's timeless. But when you start to like make it different colors, to me, it's not timeless anymore. And I might be wrong about this, but I really feel this way. It really often reads tacky unless it's like a time in culture, I feel like, where everything is really extra, you know, and really maximalist and really loud, then it can sort of fit in and make sense. But I don't know. I feel like when times are maybe a bit more subtle, maybe a bit more minimalist, the first thing that starts to look cringe is like bright colors and rhinestones. And do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. A colored rhinestone to me is just, ugh, I don't like it. I just don't really like rhinestones in general or crystals. I just, it's tough. It can work. It can. Listen, I never want to say never because it can work. But for the most part, I see it and I'm like, no, no, no. But especially when it's a color. I don't know why. I don't know why. Okay, moving on to gloves. Gloves are a very popular, red carpet accessory, right? Like you'll wear, a beautiful sort of shorter sleeved gown or tube top sleeveless gown. Tube top is so funny, not the technical term. Sleeveless, I guess. Somebody will be wearing like a strapped or like sleeveless gown and then they'll be wearing beautiful matching gloves. I absolutely love this. In fact, I need to text my stylist Jared and say, are we going to do gloves soon? Because I love gloves. I think that they are so beautiful. I think that they are so chic. I think that they are absolutely timeless. And I think there's something about it that, like, especially when it comes to red carpet, it feels old Hollywood to me. I don't know. I just think that there's something about it that's so elegant and so flattering. And I'm all about a glove. I think there's virtually nothing wrong with it. I should be clear. I'm talking about a long glove. I'm not talking about I think any glove is timeless, but I'm particularly talking about a long glove. Okay. Next we have funny stuff. Okay. Let me give you an example so you know what I mean. This year, I don't know when it was, during actor award season, I saw a picture of Emma Stone, the actress, of course, wearing a beautiful red dress, halter neck, and it had 2 pockets on the side of it for popcorn. Genius. I fucking love that stuff. When things are truly funny and smart like that, I'm all about it. Okay? I'm all about it. Or even like someone's wearing a suit and like on the collar is like a printed bow tie. It's not a real physical bow tie, it's like printed. Or the list goes on, but just anything with a bit of humor. But I think the key quality that makes it so special is when it's integrated into a genuinely cool, beautiful, interesting, well done look. It's not just like, oh, someone showed up to the red carpet and they're wearing, I don't know, like they're dressed up as like a horse. You know what I mean? Or something where it's like, okay, like that's funny. I appreciate that stuff. I think it can be entertaining and fun. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about something that's funny, but subtle, timeless. This is timeless to me because it's a novelty. It's funny when somebody dresses up as a wizard. You know what I mean? They have like a wizard hat and they're wearing a wizard cape and they have like when if people do funny stuff like that, that's almost like a gag or a prank in a way. Like that's funny, but that's its own thing. That's actually also breaking dress code, right? Like that's not technically what you're supposed to wear to a red carpet event. You're technically supposed to respect the dress code, which is, formal, black tie, gowns, suits, this type of stuff. Now listen, people can say what they want about a dress code and that it's stupid and outdated or whatever, but if somebody's throwing an event and they say, hey, I would really appreciate if you dress this way, I'm okay with following the dress code. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel that's fine. It's their event, and if they want it to look and feel a certain way, fuck it. Sure. You know what I mean? So going and wearing a funny costume, it's funny. It's funny when a few people do it. It's fun. It's funny. It's entertaining. But it's not what I'm talking about here because that's fully just a whole other thing. That's breaking the dress code. I'm talking about being in dress code, but finding a way to make it funny. Now, this is challenging because, again, black tie, formal wear, there's nothing funny about it. It's all about having really beautiful, beautiful shapes, beautiful colors. Everything about it's supposed to be beautiful. So if you can find a way to make it beautiful so that it matches the dress code, right? Tailored properly, made out of beautiful materials, using beautiful colors that complement the person who's wearing it's personal features, whatever. But then you can add a funny element. It's like genius. And to me, it's timeless because it's so hard to do, number one. And number two, because it is ultimately like the perfect balance. Okay, moving on. Revealing cutouts. Okay, so I'm talking about like, let's imagine a gown and then, there's like a huge slit in the side showing sort of belly button and your, rib and like side, like the side. Or you have one that's like, maybe it's like a huge cutout in the back of a dress. Maybe you have like a long sleeve dress and it's like a big, big cutout in the back that reveals back, like pretty much whole back and then maybe like a little bit of butt crack, like that type of revealing cutout. Okay. This to me is 50-50 when it comes to timeless because it can be timeless. It totally can. I think what makes it timeless is if number one, it's tailored properly. A lot of times big gaping cutouts can ruin the structural integrity of a clothing piece, which makes complete sense because if you're cutting a piece out of what would be normally a fully formed garment, right? It obviously will be less structurally sound. You're cutting out a piece of the clothing. It might start sitting weird. That's to be expected. And so if the garment's not tailored properly to the person and it's like gaping weird, like there's like it's like not sitting flat to the body or like, maybe you can see like maybe like it's revealing underwear because it's like not, it maybe is like too low on the hip or something, or you know what I'm saying? Like if it's not tailored properly, which is very common, I see that all the time with things that have cutouts, that can make it not timeless because it's not a functional garment. It's not being worn properly, right? You know what? I'll use myself as a reference for this. Although this wasn't necessarily a cutout that was revealing, but it was just a revealing look, right? I did one look like a year ago now, probably, where I wore this tiny little top. It was tiny, like an inch thick, and it barely covered my boobies. Okay. My boobies were out. And I loved that look. Okay. But having that much boob out to me, I wore this look. I was so excited to wear this look. I don't regret this look. Do I think it's timeless? I don't. I already look back at it sometimes and I'm like, oh God, that was a lot of boob, wasn't it? Ooh, that was a lot of boob in a professional environment. That was a lot. And it was a fashion moment and I did love the look, but it was a lot of boob. And I think wearing super revealing stuff, it isn't always, I don't know, it just depends. Like it can sometimes seem a bit, well, especially if like it's super revealing in a way where it's like, oh my God, a fashion faux pas could happen at any moment. Like it looks like her nipple is about to come out. You know what I mean? That is not timeless. When something looks like, oh my God, it's barely hiding her nipples, or like it's barely covering her vagina. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like that, I'm sorry, it can't be timeless because it's so not functional. But, like a cutout that shows midriff or like back or whatever, that's like secure and well done and tastefully done, and by tastefully, I mean like it's not like so extreme that like a nipple could fall out at any moment or like a vagina lip could fall out at, you know what I mean? Like it's like a functioning garment, you know what I mean? Like things are secure because that's the point of clothing, I guess, right? Is like we're securing stuff. I think it can be timeless. So listen, I'm going to go ahead and say 50-50 on revealing cutouts. I think it really depends. There's a lot of variables, but I think trendy is super risque, barely hiding the genitals and not well done, just like not a well done cutout. And timeless would be tastefully done, properly done, not something that you'd be too embarrassed for your parents to see. That's actually a good gauge for like a revealing cutout. If you would be mortified for your parents to see the photo, that's not timeless. That's trendy. But if you would be like, hey, you guys, look, kind of chic, right? And they would be like, yeah, that's timeless. If you could show your parents. Next, we have weird prosthetics. I've seen this a handful of times over the years on the red carpet. Okay. Like a good example, I think Doja Cat at the Met Gala 2 years ago did like a full cat. Actually, I know she did this. I interviewed her. She had like full cat prosthetics on her face, right? So she made her face look like a cat. Or another example, I've seen like, I don't remember who did it, but somebody had like spikes coming out of their back one time, almost like a dinosaur or something. Can I be honest? And this might be, I almost called it timeless and then I stopped myself because I'm wrong. I'm wrong because I'm biased. I think that this is so fun. Prosthetics on a red carpet, so fun. It almost falls under the category of like funny stuff. It really does fall under that category, to be honest, but it's just more specific. I love it. I think if it's tastefully done, and it can be really chic, honestly. Like, it can be kind of chic and interesting. However, I don't think that it's timeless. I think what is ultimately timeless is doing, normal makeup, like just having like beautiful, fun makeup done. I think adding prosthetics is not timeless. I don't think that that will always be in. In fact, it already feels like it's kind of out. I haven't seen it in a while, although I do have that on my bucket list. Like, I do want to do that for a red carpet once. Like, let me give an example. Like, what would be really cool would be to do like artistic prosthetics that aren't like goofy or silly, but are like actually serious and cool and add to the look. So, like, an example would be like, let's say I was wearing a dress that was like super mirrored. It had like a wonky, like weird metallic mirror on it. So almost like if you looked in it, you could see yourself in it. And it looked almost like a fun mirror, like a wonky sort of metallic-y dress. Now imagine I did prosthetics to make my face look like how my reflection would look in a fun mirror. So let's say in this particular fun mirror, it looks like I have 4 sets of eyes and 2 noses and 2 mouths. So imagine I got prosthetics done to add a second nose, 2 more eyes. Like, do you see what I'm saying? I know it sounds far-fetched. I know it sounds weird, but I think that there's really cool, interesting, artistic ways to use prosthetics. And I love the idea so much and I love the concept so much that I want to say it's timeless. But I will say that what is truly timeless is probably just to utilize what your natural body has to offer. Using makeup to make your eyes sparkle, using a flattering lip color to make your lips pop. Like, that's truly what's timeless. I don't think weird prosthetics are timeless, but I do think that they're incredible. And I do think that one day, whether they're in trend or not, I will do a prosthetic at some point on a red carpet. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I will. Okay, we kind of discussed this earlier. Under boob and side boob. Okay, let's talk about it. All right. As I mentioned earlier, I'm familiar with the under boob. I'm also familiar with the side boob. I've done it all. Okay, the boobs have been out. Cleavage as well. All of it. Every side of the boob for me has been out before. Cleavage, like boobs out, like a whatever. To me, that's timeless. All right. Let's just get that out of the way. I think it's totally timeless. Side boob, I also think is timeless. A little bit of boob at the side, love. I think it's chic, subtle, timeless. Okay. Under boob, I've done it. Literally, I've done it. So nobody can be like, Emma, you're such a hater. I did it like a year ago. I'm like the president of under boob after doing that look. Like, the amount of under boob, my whole boob was, okay. I don't think under boob is timeless. There's something about it that feels oftentimes like a mistake. Not always, but a lot of times it's like, oh, is it supposed to be popping out like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look right. And I get it. It's like, it can be kind of hot and cool. And listen, there are times when under boob makes sense. And like, I would argue that the look I did, the under boob made sense. It was inevitable. I didn't have a choice. It looked intentional, I'm gonna say it's not timeless though. I think that there are times when we as a society love under boob, and then there are times when we hate it. Whereas like side boob and full on cleavage, when do we not love that? I think we always love that. I can't remember a time in my life when we didn't love cleavage or side boob. We've always loved that. I think we will always love that. I think that that's never out. It's in. Okay, next we have large appliques. Oftentimes in the form of some sort of recognizable shape. Like, for example, a large bow, like large bow, like a bow on a dress that's like a foot, 2 feet long, or like a massive, like floral applique. Okay. Or like, you know what I'm talking about? Like a big rose or like a big flower or, big, large appliques. Not timeless. I don't think. No. But I don't know, like a big bow, even a big flower. No, you know what? I do think it's timeless. I can't imagine it going out of style. Like, I do think that it's sort of a classic design, okay, it is timeless. Do I like it? Rarely. Rarely. Like a large bow, a large flower. I don't know what other large appliques there are. There definitely are more. What would be another like large applique? I just Googled gowns with large appliques. Let's see what I'm finding. Yeah, it's really a lot of bows and a lot of flowers. I'm not really seeing anything else. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, a big bow can be cute. I can't, in my recent memory, think of any time I've seen like a big bow look cute. Same thing with like a big flower, a bunch of big flowers. No, it's just not my style. But I do think it's timeless. I think it's like it's sort of an easy, simple, sort of classic way to take a simple dress and add kind of a statement detail, right? Like if you have a huge rose on it or a huge bow or something, now you have something that's a bit more intriguing, right? I get it, but it's just not my style. But I have to be wary of that. Like, I will have a tendency to be like, "Oh my god, I love this thing so much. It's so timeless." But it's like, yeah, it's timeless to me, but on a societal level, it's not going to be timeless. This I don't like. So I'm quick to be like, that's not timeless. But it actually is. It actually is. I just don't like it. Next, we have wearing sunglasses on a carpet. I'm talking about chic, Saint Laurent, rock star vibes, wearing like glasses on the carpet. This is not timeless. I'm so sorry. No, it's not. Sunglasses on the carpet is not timeless. Regular glasses? Sure, that's fine. That's totally timeless. Sunglasses on a red carpet? Absolutely not. However, I kind of like it. Well, it's not timeless because it has this like air of attitude to it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to a red carpet event, this is usually a social event that's usually indoors. To wear sunglasses to the event is to show up with a sense of attitude. I don't need to make eye contact with y'all. I don't give a fuck about y'all. I'm wearing my sunglasses because I don't need to look at you. You don't need to know where I'm looking. It's kind of cold. And because of that, it's not timeless. It's not the most charming choice, right? It's a little douchey. And it's almost like how we feel about people who wear sunglasses out to a party, right? Which I have done before, to be honest. Because sometimes it's just nice to like wear sunglasses and be able to look wherever you want and like not have to worry about, people looking at where your eyes are going. I actually haven't really worn full on sunglasses, but I've worn glasses with a pretty solid tint. Maybe I have worn sunglasses to a party, but not many times. More often, it's like something with a tint, so that I can at least sort of see. But there is something about it that's like cold and almost like too cool, And that's never going to be timeless. Anything with that feeling associated is not going to be timeless because it's not likable. It's not charming. I don't know. It's not polite. Anything impolite, I don't think will ever be able to be timeless, but it can definitely be trendy. And the sunglasses to me on the red carpet are trendy. However, I do kind of like it. I think it's kind of hot and cool. Like, even though I'm aware that it's trendy, but like, if it made sense actually, I've done it before. Oh my God, I have. It was the same time that I wore leather underwear. Well, let's just talk about this outfit because it's come up twice now. So to the GQ Man of the Year party. So in my defense, it was a red carpet for a party. It wasn't like a red carpet for a formal event, right? It was a red carpet for a party. So the dress code was a bit more flexible. I wore an Acne Studios leather like jacket coat, almost skin tight, with matching leather underwear, black tights, black little heels, and a full like shield sunglass. Can I be honest? Fun look. Was that one super timeless? Probably not, but it was so fun and I have no regrets at all. I wore sunglasses on the carpet. I wore full on underwear. Like nothing about that was timeless, but it was fucking fun. And it was also like a really great form of self-expression for me at the time. I like was newly single. I was excited to be out and just be social and feel free. Like I had to wear my little leather undies. It was a vibe. In the sunglasses, it was nice to just like top it off with like, I'm wearing underwear and you don't get to look at me in the eyes when you want to ask me about it. Like people are going to look back on that and cringe. I probably will look back on that and cringe at some point, but like it was fun. So I'm all about it, but I don't think it's timeless. Sorry, I just don't. Okay, next, floral patterns. Oh, I'm just like, okay, here's the thing. Florals can be beautiful and they can be done right. And I'm there. Like, I'm not saying all florals are bad, but like probably 80% of them are. I will say though, floral designs on gowns, on suits, on anything. I mean, maybe less so on suits. I don't know. But that's been around forever. That's been a detail, a pattern that's been worn forever. It's undeniably timeless. You know, you go into a wedding dress shop, how many wedding dresses have flowers on it? Like 80%? Or, you know, you go to buy like a dress for a wedding at like, I don't know, like Reformation. So many formal dresses with flowers on it. It's just flowers are a symbol of beauty and elegance. And so it makes sense that for a long, long time, we've been putting floral designs on dresses. It's a pattern that dates back very far, I think, and understandably so. You know, it makes sense. But I think it's so often stale and ugly. It can be gorgeous though. I think florals are most timeless when they're the most classic and the most simple. I think of like a white dress with a bunch of little red, tiny little red roses, like red rose with a little green stem all over it. Like that's timeless to me. You can't go wrong with that. Or like, you know, a dress that has, I don't know, maybe like a pattern that looks like, honestly, like a real print of real rose bushes. Like it looks like a real rose bush printed onto there, embroidered onto there, whatever. I think it's less timeless when it's super bright colors, it's super animated, it's super bright. Oh, no. But I am just kind of bored of flowers and florals just because I think it's so common that I think I'm bored of it. But maybe I'm biased because I've just been so overexposed to florals. I've just seen so many floral gowns because they're so popular and because I'm particularly interested in red carpet looks. Like I love the art of it so much that I've seen so many looks and I just see a floral gown and I'm like, it's okay. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see any more of these, you know? I might just be biased. Okay, moving on to lace. Lace, I love. Lace, I love. You can almost never go wrong with lace. Listen, anything can be done wrong. But for the most part, like a lace dress, it's kind of hard to fuck up, especially if you're doing like black lace or white lace. How do you fuck that up? It's so classic and it's almost always beautiful. I love lace. It's funny because I didn't always love it as much as I do now, but now I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And the art of lace is so beautiful. It's like, you know, the way that they make lace, like if you watch somebody making lace by hand, it's like one of the most satisfying things you'll ever watch. And it's so delicate and it's just one of the most classic materials of all time. Lace to me is timeless and it's like sexy but classy. I need to call Jared and say, Jared, you need to get me a lace look. I need to tell Jared I need to wear lace soon. Okay, next we have ruffles. Yeah. Ruffles. Ruffles are obviously timeless. They're like, it's such a staple sort of technique, design technique, that I'm gonna have to go ahead and say timeless. But I'd say it's like 60% timeless. You know, like 40% of the time it's like, ooh, that's not good, you know? But I do think ruffles can be really fun, especially if they're like used sort of sparingly. Love. Like, okay, imagine like a really simple, let's say like a really simple cream dress, right? It's strapless and it goes all the way down to the floor and it's tight, but at the bottom they've attached some ruffles. So like around the feet, it's like, oh, this beautiful little ruffles at the bottom, almost like sort of a mermaid shape. That's gorgeous. You know what I mean? Ruffles in that way, gorgeous. I think ruffles can just become overpowering very quickly because there's a lot of volume and they can be sort of messy looking. It's like just kind of like, ugh, you know what I mean? It reminds me of like the poop emoji a lot of times, ruffles do. It just looks like, but I think when done right and done sparingly, it can be really chic. So I'm gonna go ahead and say timeless, but I think a lot of times it's done poorly, but I'm gonna say timeless. Okay, next, fluffy feather details, particularly around the neck or wrists or bottom of a dress. I love this. I might be biased because when I was a small child, I had a little pajama set that was like this beautiful little velvet pink dress with little feathers on the bottom, and then I had a little robe that had it was so cute, and I loved it so much, and it was very much this vibe. I mean, it wasn't obviously real feathers. It was very much fake feathers, but it was the idea of like, a gorgeous nightgown with like the gorgeous feathers on the bottom, very luxurious. So I'm biased. I will always love feather details like that because of that little PJ set I had as a kid. But I just think in general it's timeless. Again, this is another thing that very much feels old Hollywood. A feather, even like a feather scarf or something, like all of this, it's chic. It's so chic. It adds like such a soft, almost dream-like looking sort of volume to a gown. You could have a really sleek, slender sort of gown, and then if you have like a beautiful, feathered detail around the wrists in the bottom of the dress, it's like it adds almost this like whimsical volume. I don't know. Whereas like a ruffle is like a whoa, it's like strong and very visually like harsh to look at, which can sometimes be really great and beautiful and cool. But feathers, it's so soft and like inviting and charming. I don't know. I love feathers. Okay, next, deep V necklines. Okay, this can come in many different shapes and sizes. Okay, sometimes we're talking about like a deep V neckline that, like in a very structured sort of gown, right? Like there's like really strong cups on the breasts and then a really sharp, cut down, and it's like very sharp. And then sometimes you'll have a gown that's maybe more loose, like a loose flowy gown that has like a deep, deep, deep cut. I don't think timeless. I think cleavage is timeless. Like having like cleavage, sure. A deep V neckline, nah. Every time I see it, I'm like, I almost hate this. Or I just hate it. But yeah, I don't know. A deep V to me, it feels kind of chuggy. I'm not saying I don't like it or that it's not timeless because it's revealing. That has nothing to do with it. I just think aesthetically, it's like there's something about it that reminds me of like 2010s like pop stars. And I loved their fashion, okay, but it wasn't timeless. Okay, I actually didn't love their fashion, to be honest. I didn't love a lot of it, but yeah, I don't think a deep V is timeless. I'm sorry, it's just not. Okay, next we have sequins. Sequins are more timeless to me than rhinestones. I'll tell you this. I'm less repulsed by a sequin than I am by a rhinestone. I do think sequins are pretty much timeless. Ew, do I mean that? Wait, I need to look up photos of sequined gowns. Okay. As I'm speaking to you, I'm looking at pictures of sequined gowns. I don't know. I don't know. Some of them are good. Some of them are good. Like I'll describe what I'm seeing. Like I see a sequined gown that I really like right now. It's a very simple silhouette. Like, tank top sort of style gown, V-neck, not a deep V, just a little V-neck, no cleavage. Pretty tight dress with a slight flare at the bottom. Deep, deep red with sequins. It's kind of gorgeous. But then oh man, I'm seeing this like kind of loose fitting teal dress right now that's with sequins. Ugh, I don't love it. I don't love it. I'm sorry, I don't. Okay, sequins. Oh God, I'm seeing a horrible oh my God, that's horrible. I don't know. I actually don't know about sequins. I was gonna say that they're timeless, but as I'm looking at pictures of sequin gowns, I'm like, no, they're not. I don't like sequins, I've decided. And sequins are not timeless. They almost always look cheap. And you know why? It's because they're made out of plastic for the most part. I do think that there's a rare occasion, maybe 30% of the time, where they can look really good. I think when the sequins are really small, I think when they're a really like rich, beautiful color, it can look good. For the most part, though, hideous. I'm gonna say not timeless. Yeah, for the most part, not timeless. Okay, moving on to beading. Oh, I love beading. Beading is like one of my favorite textiles for a dress. I think it's gorgeous. Any type of beading. A full gown that's made of just like a bunch of little sewn on beads, like, appliques with beads. I don't care. I don't care. If there's beads, I like it. I almost always like beads. And I think that they're so timeless. undeniably timeless. No, not up for debate. A bead is so timeless. They're like naturally shiny. They're made of, usually like glass or I guess plastic, but usually I feel like glass. And they look so sophisticated. They look so clean. The reflection that they give is so balanced. It's not too sparkly or shiny, but it's also not like completely matte and like textureless. I just think beads are some of the best textiles of all time. And I really fell in love with beading and truly like, I don't know, just became like really conscious and aware of it when I went to India for a fashion event. And there was a lot of stuff about beading. And I was like, wait, yeah, like this is fucking incredible. And I've just loved beading ever since. And well, I mean, I loved it always, but it just became like a textile to me where I'm like, I like that. Every time I see it, I'm like, I like that. Okay, next we have two-piece dresses. Okay, now by that I mean something that reads like a gown, but it's technically a two-piece set. Okay, like a good example would be the boob outfit reference from earlier, which was like a super high-waisted skirt with a matching top, right? That was, as I mentioned earlier, very revealing of the breasts. There's a lot of different ways to do this, like a two-piece dress set sort of thing that reads as a gown. I like this actually. It's timeless, I would say like 60% of the time, but I like it. Even though it can often be a bit, I don't know, it can be kind of corny sometimes, to be honest. But I think when it's done right, it's so chic and it's cool. And it's like, it's like a bit of a different take on the gown. It's deconstructed a bit. It's an interesting way to reveal sort of skin, but it feels intentional. I'm going to go ahead and say it's timeless because it's sort of this like blank canvas of a concept. Like you can do so many different things with it. But I will say that it does not always work. No, it doesn't. I'd say the concept is timeless, but the execution is often not. Like it can really be hit or miss. And I'd say like 40% of the time it's a miss, if not even maybe 50%. Okay, next we have silky material. Silky material, velvet, silk, all of these things, they're timeless. They go way back. We've been seeing them for decades and decades and hundreds of years. These are timeless materials. However, I do want to talk about silk. Okay? A silk gown. Wearing a silk gown will ruin your night for like 10 different reasons. Okay? I've worn a silk gown or two to a red carpet. I actually referenced a silk gown that I wore earlier. It was a black silk gown that was like a halter top. It was really beautiful. However, silk wrinkles so easily. Like it's insane. You literally breathe and there's a huge wrinkle on it. So it's so stressful if you're going to a red carpet event and you're going to walk on the red carpet because you're like, I know that this whole thing is going to be wrinkled and it's going to be so visible on the camera. But also, silk is rarely flattering. Like, and I'm talking from personal experience. It is very hard to have it lay on the body in a way that's flattering. It oftentimes, like, it creates like unfavorable shadows. Like, if you're not wearing a bra, for example, under the lace, it'll like make your nipples, like the shadow of your nipple look weird. Like it's just weird. I don't know. It's really tough to work with. It's a really tough material and it can look really beautiful, but I prefer silk materials when they're like on a corset, like that love, because it has the structure of the corset, but it has the texture of the silk. Great. It like solves the problem of it kind of being flimsy and wrinkly and whatever. Oof. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Latex. I'm sorry, you guys. No, latex is not timeless. Here's the thing about latex. I love latex, actually. Even though one time I thought I was allergic to it because I kind of got a rash from it and I was like, oh my God. But I'm not, I don't think. I love the way that it looks. I think it can be really interesting and intriguing. To me, it's not timeless though, number one, because it has like a weird sexual undertone that like I think is hard to shake. Like I don't think, and I'm not kink shaming. I'm not like sex shaming. We should all be having sex and having fun and doing our thing and doing whatever the hell we want as long as everybody is safe and happy and consenting. So like wear latex, fucking, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm saying. But there is this sort of like almost like weirdly, I feel like this sort of the kinky undertone to it makes it hard for it to be timeless for a red carpet. But also too, I think the fact that it's so hard to put on and off, it's so hard to move in. It's also very edgy. And I feel like edgy stuff, like anything that's too edgy, is not going to be timeless for a red carpet. You know what I'm saying? Anything that feels kind of punk, nah, not for a red carpet, in my opinion. You can disagree with me. And last but not least, peplum dresses. What's a peplum, you may ask? Imagine a dress that's like straight all the way down, particularly maybe even tight. But then around the waist area, there's one little ruffle peplum. There's like one little piece of fabric that sort of jets out at the waist. Look up a peplum. You know what a peplum is. It's very 2010s. It feels very like Katy Perry on the red carpet 2010. However, I actually do think that it's timeless. It is, because I've actually seen some peplum dresses recently, and they're not particularly in right now necessarily, but I've been seeing them a little bit. I've seen a few recently, and I was thinking to myself, this is really chic, actually. Yeah, I like it. I think it's nice. I think it creates a really beautiful shape, having like sort of a straight line all the way down the body, but then there's sort of this dramatic waist accentuation from this peplum, but it's like done through fabric. So it looks almost like a chess piece or something. Like you look kind of like a little chess piece, like very angular, and it's very satisfying to look at. I personally like a peplum. So I don't know, call me Katy Perry, but I like a peplum. Fuck it. She's probably like never even worn a peplum. Let me Google Katy Perry and a peplum and see what I find. Katy Perry peplum. Okay. There is a photo of her wearing. Wow, there's a lot. Wow, she has worn quite a few peplums here. Yeah, she has. Not a lot. No, she has. Not really, though. But I couldn't think of any other 2010 icon to reference. Anyways, okay, that's it. That's all I have to say. I'm done. That was it for today's episode. The next 2 episodes are going to be dedicated to the Met Gala because I get so excited about it. Because I love seeing everybody's outfits and I, love participating and interviewing people, and it's just an exciting time. And so I have to, I love to be in the spirit of fashion during this time. All right, that's all I have for today. If you all enjoyed this, have no fear. I'm here every Thursday and Sunday. You can listen anywhere you stream podcasts, and you can watch on Spotify and YouTube. Find Anything Goes on Instagram and Anything Goes. Find me on the internet everywhere for the most part, except for like TikTok. I actually have a TikTok account, but I just don't use it because I'm super weird about my relationship with TikTok. At Emma Chamberlain. Check out my coffee company, Chamberlain Coffee. We're in stores. We're online. You'll find us if you Google it. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I really appreciate you all for listening and hanging out. I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me as much as I enjoyed hanging out with you. It's always a pleasure. It's always so much fun. And I just love you. That's it. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.